Today is Wednesday, October the 21st, and it's hump day. So the week's going by fast. It's actually flying by. And I am your host, KC Phoenix, and this is my daily thought. Where to start? Okay, honestly, I am in a battle stance a little bit because today, for the most part, has been 95% on point, minus a few little things here and there, but it has went remarkably well. Where I woke up at the right time, I wasn't tired, I had everything ready, I recorded all my stuff for my other show, got that done on time, got everything pretty much has went seamlessly all day long. And when things go like that, it's like I'm grabbing my sword because I'm like, okay, where's the battle? Where's the battle? Is it coming? Is it coming? So I'm attempting to take in the moment that everything thus far, up until 6:13 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, has went pretty well today. So, knock on wood. And will continue to go well. And I was preparing to do this podcast and recording. And I was like, okay, I spoke about a blue moon yesterday, which I'm sure some people were like, what? But yeah, the blue moon, I'm trying to tell you. Just know I'm still on that thing with the secrets. Also, because Mercury is in retrograde and because the blue moon is happening, conflicts are more than likely to happen as well during that period. So towards the end of the month, don't be surprised if things get on your nerves a little bit more than usual once you start getting closer to October 31st. With the blue moon and also with Mercury being in retrograde right now. So if someone does something that gets on your nerves, try your best to bite your tongue. Don't say anything, just give a pass. Just do your best to give a pass, because if you don't give a pass, it's probably going to escalate, and then it's going to turn into something where people say things that shouldn't have been said in the moment, and it could cause a whole bunch of other stuff that doesn't even need to happen. And usually I'm not the one to say that, because if I'm truly annoyed about something, I will say something. See something, say something. But with what's going on right now, with all of the energy and everything else, just let it ride until right now. I'm letting stuff ride until close to the middle of November. After the middle of November, some of these passes I've been giving out to people, which I'm pretty generous with some things anyway, but some of these passes that I've been giving out to certain people, whether it be work related or family related or whatever, they will expire once the middle of November gets here. So yeah, just for the sake of things not escalating to a level that you can't come back from it. All right. Now, let's get on to the daily thought, speaking of Halloween, which Halloween is in 10 days because it's 21st. So Halloween's in 10 days. So it's only appropriate, while I'm talking about this, my daily thought, to talk about vampires and werewolves. And the reason I bring this up is because the title of the episode, which I'm sure you clicked on it, whether to watch it or to listen to it. But as I say, I have more listeners than viewers and da-da-da-da-da. So whatever. All right. When you clicked on this to listen to it, you saw Embrace the Light with the Dark. Or Embrace the Light and the Dark. I'm looking at the title right now to my right. So Embrace the Light and the Dark. And I feel like the best way to explain it is talking about vampires and werewolves. I'm sure everybody has seen Vampire Diaries. I'm sure everyone has seen what other, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Twilight, Teen Wolf, which Teen Wolf was a much better series than I expected it to be. If you haven't seen the Teen Wolf series, check that out sometime. That was I just watched it just because, okay, let me give you the quick side story and then I'll get back to this. The side story is I buy things on sale. It was on sale the entire season because I had never seen it before because I didn't have that much of an interest in it. It's like, okay, well, if you've seen Vampire Diaries, you've seen all the stuff. But it was on sale for $14.99 for the entire season, the entire series. Let me rephrase the entire series, which I think is like 6 seasons or something like that. I was like, well, $14.99. Even if I'm not that interested in it, I'll just go ahead and buy it anyway, and that's what I did. So I started watching Teen Wolf, and I was like, this is a really good series. Now I see why people were really into the show. So I enjoyed it. But when it comes to vampires and werewolves in the shows, when they first become vampires or werewolves, unless even with the originals, they were turned into vampires and werewolves. Well, I digress. Anyways, when vampires and werewolves first become vampires and werewolves, they have to adjust because they have to figure out how to deal with their new side of life, their other characteristics, additional characteristics that have been added into their life that didn't exist before. And sort of like with Vampire Diaries, which, okay, if you haven't seen Vampire Diaries, spoiler alert, all right? So there we go. With Caroline, when she got turned, Caroline had to adjust. I forgot, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, I forgot who turned Caroline. Who was it, Klaus? I don't think it was Klaus. Niklaus didn't turn her. Or was it, Brian, whatever his name was. Brian, because I know it wasn't Stefan. Stefan didn't do it. I think it was Brian that turned her. It was either Brian or Niklaus, but I think, you know what, it might have been Niklaus. Anyways, when she was turned, she had to adjust because she had these cravings. The rule was that when a vampire bites you, that you have, I think it's either 48 hours or 72 hours to either drink blood or you're going to die. And of course, most people, they're like, okay, well, fine, I'm going to drink the blood. After they drink the blood, then they become the vampire. And then they attempt to learn how to control their urges of wanting to suck other people's blood. All right, same thing with the werewolves, sort of like on Teen Wolf. When he became the werewolf, he had to learn how to control it because anger would make him spaz out and possibly turn into the werewolf. Also on the Vampire Diaries with, what was that character's name? I want to say Scott. He was really, really cute. I forgot his name. I want to say it was Scott. The one, he was dating Caroline, I think, for a while. Or was it Mason? Anyways, he had the rich family and all that stuff, because I haven't watched Vampire Diaries in a while. But he had the rich family. He ended up turning into a werewolf as well. And it was triggered by anger because it runs in the blood and da-da-da-da-da. All right. So they couldn't stop being vampires. They couldn't stop being werewolves. They had to learn to adjust. So there was the human side of them, which one could say is the light. And then there was the supernatural side of them, which one could say is the dark. And usually they found the most success instead of fighting against their supernatural side, learning to embrace their supernatural side and live with it and create a balance. Some people go to extremes where Stefan was what's known as a ripper, where if he gets a taste of blood, he goes overboard, he goes on a binge and starts killing everybody, which I don't think he ever got that under control. But for the most part, the other vampires, some decided to live off of animal blood. Some still decided to live off of human blood, but they went to blood banks and did things like that. They did things to adjust to keep from hurting humans, is what they did. And then some, of course, they didn't care if they hurt humans or not. They just did what they wanted to do. All right. When it comes to embracing light and dark, some of us, well, you know what? I'm not even going to say some. A lot of us have habits or things about us that we might feel guilty about. It may be a secret to people. It may even be embarrassing to some people. Things like that. Whether, like if you drink a lot or whatever, that could be embarrassing to you. If you like to smoke a lot, that could be embarrassing to you. If you like to be naughty, bedroom a lot, that could be embarrassing to you. If you have a quick temper, that could be embarrassing to you. You're like, wow, I wish I didn't have this temper. I wish that I could control my temper. Take your pick your poison or whatever. Instead of feeling guilty, instead of beating yourself up, because one thing that links all of this stuff, including with the vampires and the werewolves, one thing that links every single thing I'm talking about is humanity. All of us are human. That is the light. But also, because everyone is human, there is room for dark. I'm not saying go out and overload on your more questionable characteristics or urges or desires or whatever. What I'm saying is, don't beat yourself up over having them, and take time to, and I can't seem to sit still in this chair. I'm trying my best to get comfortable. For those who are watching instead of listening to the podcast, I've been fidgeting in this chair for the longest because I'm trying to get comfortable. And you know how when you sit in a chair, you want to get that the right type of comfort, sort of like when you're in bed and you want to get the right position when you're sleeping, and then finally you get the right position and then you're finally going off to sleep. That's what I'm going through right now with this chair, like trying to find the right type of comfort, and it's not working or whatever. But anyways, I digress. What I was saying was is that instead of beating yourself up, instead of judging yourself, and one thing that I've always noticed in life, everyone is their harshest critic. Because I know for me, I'm my harshest critic. Because things that I've just went in on myself on, where I've had an opinion about something, and in some cases judge myself, which is rare I judge, but I don't really judge people. It's more myself sometimes than people. But I'll have an opinion about something about myself. I notice that I'm one of the harshest, if not the most harshest critic when it comes to things. And I think that's people as a whole. Don't do that. Don't stay in that energy. Instead of having this horrible opinion about yourself because of whatever characteristic that you consider is a flaw at the time, go ahead and analyze and see if there is a way that you can balance that flaw. Let's say that you lie a lot, like that cousin I told you about. But I'm not going to call her name. She knows who she is. Let's say you lie a lot. I got to take a sip. For those listening, I have to take a sip of my lemon water. Okay. All right. Let's say you lie a lot. That's not the best thing. That is what we consider more on the dark. I don't consider lying part of the light. So if you lie a lot, and you know you lie a lot, instead of having a harsh opinion about yourself, instead of leaning more towards that type of darkness, find a way to balance it with your light. For example, let's say that you are being treated unfairly by a company or something. And I'm just throwing something out there. Let's say you're being treated unfairly by a company. And you know that if you were to say something different, you may get a different result, even though it may not necessarily be completely true. But it would not necessarily harm you because they were already harming you or attempting to harm you by treating you unfairly to begin with. That might be a time to embrace your other side, to use as a defense against being treated unfairly. Or you can let karma work it out, because as the saying goes, karma is a silent and slow moving gangster. One of my favorite sayings. Either or. But if you decide you don't want karma to intervene and you're just like, well, I have the tools necessary, even though the tools are in the dark toolkit instead of the light toolkit, and those tools will help defend me against the negative actions of said company, then maybe you should embrace it for that moment. But don't let your knee-jerk reaction for every single thing in life, good, bad, or indifferent, be to use the tools in your dark toolkit. Sometimes you don't even need to touch your dark toolkit. It's all about balance. If you enjoy the company of others, one could say, and I'm not judging, because who am I to judge? And hell, I mean, I'm kind of in that boat, or was, because this year, you already know the story. And so, yeah, even though lately I've been feeling, like tweet. All right, for some of you who are not old enough, look up the song Oops by Tweet. But anyways, if you enjoy the company of others and you know that is not necessarily something that would be considered of the light side of you, find a way to balance it. One way to balance it would be to find a specific person to explore with and only explore with that person. It doesn't have to be any commitments. There's different types of relationships in life. Not every relationship has to be a commitment. We're jumping the broom. We're going to settle down and have a family and do all this other stuff. Not every relationship has to be that. Some relationships can just be of physical convenience with one person. That way, and if as long as you and that person know that you're not dealing with other parties, then you can meet as much as you like. You're embracing what one might consider a little bit of the dark by indulging, but at the same time, you're not spreading your energy all over the place. You're concentrating your energy with just one person. And doing that will help with balancing. Because if you're spreading all over the place, that energy from the dark, you could say the dark side, can mess with the energy of the light. So and that's what I'm talking about. That's why people have to analyze things. You have to sit down and analyze, what could I do with said thing that might be considered dark, or some people might call them vices. What could I do to balance this vice with my regular life? What can I do because vices are things that we indulge in. For those, you can have a vice that you love to eat. Okay. You have to sit down and analyze. What are you eating? What are the things that you love to eat? Okay. Then analyze more. What are some things that could be substituted for what you're eating that may be considered healthy? That's where research comes in. And for the things that are healthy, you could more than likely eat them as much as you want. And it wouldn't matter, because the unhealthy things that you have been eating because you love to eat, if you're eating healthy things but you're still constantly eating, that would not affect your light as much, and it would help keep you balanced too. So when it comes to vices, it's a point of determining, how can I balance my life with this vice, with this desire? If I desire to do this, how can I make it fit inside my life so I don't lose balance? But instead of going to an extreme, which is what some people do, they go to extremes where they're like, oh, I love to eat, so I'm just going to stop eating. I'll stop eating this, I'll stop eating this, I'll stop eating that, I'll stop eating this, I'll stop eating that. Extremes are not good in any form. So you have to figure out how to balance it, and you can't be afraid of your desires. With you being a human being, you will always have desires. If it isn't one thing, it's going to be another. If your desire isn't food or drinking or sex or smoking or lying or hot temper, having a hot temper, foul mouth, whatever. Things that, because some people's vices are to cuss. I used to have that, but it went away. There are things out there, like I said, characteristics. I can't necessarily call them attributes, even though in some cases they can be attributes. There are things out there that people have that they have to learn how to embrace instead of running away from. And in embracing the dark, in doing the work with the dark, they will learn how to control the darker things about them better. So instead of going to an extreme, just blocking out the dark, pretending the darkness doesn't exist, and then the darkness gets pent up and eventually just explodes, and then it becomes an extreme where the darkness is where you're doing the things that are keeping you out of balance, and you don't have any control over it anymore because the darkness was pent up so much. It's like you're all over the place. So that's why you have to have one and the other. Sort of like with anime, this anime show, for those of you who watch anime Naruto, where he had to learn how to work because, spoiler alert for those who don't watch anime, he had to learn how to work with the nine-tailed fox. What his dad did was his dad put this nine-tailed fox, which was considered a demon, inside of him. And this fox had rage and anger and everything else. And as he grew up, as Naruto grew up, he had to learn how to, instead of shutting out the fox all the time, he had to learn how to work with the fox. And eventually, the end result was him and the fox became great friends, and he was able to channel the fox's energy to get things accomplished. And he ended up becoming the Hokage, the 7th Hokage or the 8th. Hold on. Tsunade was the 5th Hokage. I think Hitachi was the 6th Hokage. So yeah, I'm pretty sure Naruto was the 7th Hokage. I'm doing this off the top of my head here. But yeah, so Hokage is the person who's like the head of the village and everything else. He became real famous, helped end the war and all this other stuff. All right. But the point is that he had to learn to work with the darker side of him, which was the nine-tailed fox. And after he learned how to work with the nine-tailed fox, which is Karuma, everything balanced out. And that's what I'm saying to you. When I talk about vampires and werewolves and nine-tailed foxes and Halloween and everything else, don't run away from the things that you think are bad. Learn how to balance it out. Now, as I always say, in every single show, there is always a caveat. And this episode is no different. I'm not trying to convince you to be a functioning drug addict. If you are doing cocaine and all this other stuff, even though if you are doing cocaine or something like that, I don't judge. It's your body. You can do what you want to do. I'm not endorsing certain things. I'm saying learn how to balance things out in life. And you know what those things are. If something is extreme, like drug use, then that's a conversation you have to have with yourself. Now, I'm not a licensed therapist, even though people call me and tell me all their stuff like I am a licensed therapist, but that's another episode for another day. I can only tell you what my truth is, what my life experiences have been, and what I believe, and what my opinion is. My opinion on that and what I believe on that is that if you need help with balancing things, then go ahead and get it. If you need help with removing things, and that's the other thing, you have to determine what needs to be removed, which I done an episode, remove what doesn't serve you. There's certain things, and this is all wrapped up in the caveat, that can be removed and certain things that can't be removed. And you can determine if there's something in your life that can be removed. If you want to remove certain things, analyze it before you remove it. Because as I said before, there are certain situations where people try to remove things or just block out stuff, and then it's been blocked out so long it gets pent up, and then it spills, and then there's stuff all over the place, and then you're thrown out of balance. So it's all about what's best for you. But the things that are considered dark by some people in the world aren't necessarily bad things. And you have to determine what that is for you. So that's all I have. I can't believe this was 30 minutes. I did not mean for this to be 30 minutes. And I need to get back to my chicken because I had it turned down a little bit so it wouldn't boil over like it did last time. So anyways, I'm going to get going. KIRWKC.com, main podcasting platform. KIRWKC on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook.com/KIRWKC if you're watching this on YouTube or Daily Motion. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, followed by the notification bell. That will let you know when I upload new episodes. And yeah, I think that's all I have. But don't be afraid of the dark, is the main point. Don't be afraid of the dark. When I was a kid, I used to be so afraid of the dark. And then as I started to become older, one thing I learned is that there's comfort in darkness, because when I was afraid of the dark because I was afraid that something would come get me. But then I realized usually in the dark is where you can't be seen. So if something was to attempt to come get me, it would have a hard time finding me in the dark. There's comfort sometime in the dark. But learn how to embrace light and dark and find your balance. Until next time, be blessed.